Hi, I'm Tanishka. You might know me as the Moon Woman, and this is my forecast for the Ascension energies for July 2025. So we've just had the solstice. I'm currently in England, and so it was the summer solstice here, of course, the winter solstice down under. And this one was a real upgrade for our light bodies, our energy bodies. And a lot of people, I know I was drawn to Stonehenge for the dawn, and there were thousands and thousands of people, but I heard of other people that were also called to sight the dawn. And that was a specific portal. Um, so we've all received a big influx of plasma, a solar upgrade for, this next 6 months leading up to the next solstice. And there was a specific solar initiation that I received as a vision, and I was asked to share this with as many people as possible. So at the end of this broadcast, I will speak it as a guided journey, and I will include a link for you to play some music while you listen to that. So essentially, um, what the vision was about being crowned by the sun with the corona. And, the word corona means crown and or garland. And originally, this referred to the corona borealis or the corona australis, so the northern and southern lights. So that beautiful event where we see rainbow lights, and this is said to spread all over the planet before the pole shift. So before we experience the the shift in human consciousness when we get to that tipping point. So the more people who experience themselves moving through the doorway of the heart to crown themselves as sovereigns, the faster we get to the tipping point of the collective going through that portal into the fourth dimensional reality of the new earth. So the vision that I received in a women's circle with my dear friend Ruth, who was taking us on a guided drum journey, involved me seeing the corona around the sun, which is known in the Native American tradition as a sundog. And this is a herald that the whirling rainbow prophecy is being fulfilled. And if you followed me for a while, you know this is a prophecy that speaks dearly to my heart. I think it might have been Jamie Sam's Sacred Path Oracle deck that first introduced me to it many years ago. But essentially, the prophecy states there will come a time when the animals are dying and the women and children are crying and the earth is being ravaged. A new tribe will come from all four corners of the globe, all colours and creeds, and they will circle the earth like a whirling rainbow, which is essentially a positive vortex of harmony. And the ancient teachers will return and teach the people how to live in alignment with nature and the old ways. And Rainbow Woman will come and lead the Rainbow Warriors. Now, if you look up Wikipedia, it says that it's fake, which of course is a sign that it's true. If you're aware of the censorship that we're currently having to navigate. So this vision, I see a sundog, the first thing, and an eagle flying around it. And then I'm taken into the heart of the sun. And then I hear Native Americans and I sense and see them in a circle, all drumming around me. And the other women who are in the room, they could also hear the drumming and hear the chanting of these Native Americans. And so I'm then shown going into the sun. Um, and in the heart of the sun, it was a vibrational shift. So it felt holographic, it felt otherworldly. Everything was kind of luminous and, sort of had a glittery rainbow kind of a texture to it. And then, I had a flashback to being in a long carved wooden boat with Maori warriors paddling, and I'm a Maori woman at the front of the boat. And I'd had that vision before going into the setting sun, which represented the end of this astrological age of Pisces. And previously, that's all I'd seen. But this time, we're going into the sun. And when I went through the sun, we came into the new earth on the other side, and it was pristine. It was, Gaia restored to her full vibrancy and purity. And there were people there already, but there were no buildings. They were building what looked like beautiful temples of crystalline light, dodecahedrons, and there was support from stellar beings, stellar nations to build the new earth. So the information that was given to me was that, you know, the word corona was deliberately distorted to create a fear-based association. Um, our words are powerful, the word spell, spelling. So when we change the meaning of a word, that distorts what we're creating with our words. So this rainbow halo around the sun, it's us being crowned as sovereigns if we attune to the sun as our portal, if you will, for ascension. So yeah, I don't know what to say about that. What else was there? Yeah, I'll take you through that at the end. So I looked up what the original meaning of the word corona was, and it gave me that information about it being a luminous circle observed around the sun during total eclipses. And the vision of Fatima, and it coincided with a solar event. So, this is seen as a divine intervention, which is what the anticipated solar event is that so many are waiting for. So I it seems to me we're also simultaneously experiencing an escalation of control, because those that have held the power, the 1%, are afraid of us going through the sun and experiencing this quantum shift into a higher frequency of ourselves as fractals of the Gaia consciousness. So hence them dimming the sun, but also geoengineered weather events. So we're seeing weather extremes to generate hysteria, a mistrust of the elements, a mistrust of Gaia, a fear of nature, and therefore looking to top-down authority to take care of us like scared children, when in fact it's those that are orchestrating this event or these events to garner acceptance preemptively, to introduce travel mandates to curtail freedom of movement. And this is already happening for those of us that are nomadic, that are, circling the earth like a whirling rainbow. We're noticing the tightening of borders. All of the airports are introducing facial recognition, even in third world countries. And there are more convoluted processes, more expensive applications to get passports to dissuade people from actually seeing the world with their own eyes. Because if we're not traveling, we believe what we're told about other cultures rather than meeting our brothers and sisters of different cultures. So I was fortunate enough to do a meditation after swimming in the ocean 2 nights ago with some dear friends of mine in Lewis at New Haven Beach. And the information that was given to me was, you know, the the split, if you will, at the moment is between the digital realm, the artificial light, and the elemental realm, which is the magic of life. And so we're being told that at this time, the more we can unplug from the digital realm, the easier life will be. In other words, there's a lot of nervous exhaustion happening. I've had it myself, I've noticed it, and it creates stress. I'm also noticing a lot more alarms going off, which creates alarm, it creates fear, car alarms and alarms going off in the supermarket or when I walk down the street, emergency vehicles with sirens that are so loud, they create a lot of distress. So, there's a lot that's taxing our nervous system, and we are, you know, needing to soothe our nervous system by returning to a state of communion with the elements. So, lying on the rocks, feeling the breeze on your cheeks, hearing the sounds of water, and attuning to the fire in your heart. The more that you can nourish your nervous system by, you know, breathing in the negative ions of, you know, walking in nature, in lush greenery, but just feeding your nervous system with the magic of nature, because we've never had so much electromagnetic pollution that we're dealing with, and that's throwing out our hormones, which is throwing out emotional balance, especially for those that are in the spring and the autumn of their lives. So the youths and those in midlife, the changing seasons of our life, this is a time when there's so much hormonal change that the nervous system gets elevated even more easily. So it's especially important for those in the spring and autumn of their lives to unplug as much as possible and get to nature. And the fact is, we're told that, digital makes our life easier. And that is not actually the case. It's kind of like the emperor's new clothes. It makes it, as someone said to me the other night, easier for the provider, not for the user. So it means that as the user of technology, we end up feeling more isolated, more overwhelmed. We have to do more, you know, constantly verifying who we are and putting in codes and passwords in order just to do something simple. Whereas in the past, we would have just had a 2-minute phone call conversation and, been able to book a doctor's appointment, for instance. So we're being dehumanized, and that is very stressful to the soul. So we need to remember that just like moths are destroyed by being blinded by artificial light, and moths are a symbol of the ancestors, we need to come back to the ancestors who reside, with their bones decomposing to be part of the earth and their souls in the stars above us. We need to stargaze, sit around a fire, and spend time together communing in nature, especially now that we have the sun moving through the sign of Cancer. We have 2 new moons in Cancer this year, and we have Jupiter in Cancer for a year. And Cancer is the sign of community. So community is what holds us. And when we feel held by the circle of community, by the circle of our life, knowing where we stand in relation to the great wheel, the more we feel regulated in our nervous system and our emotional body, which is our solar plexus and our sacral chakra. So this is, you know, in the I'll just show you the solar plexus here, the 14 to 21-year-old, and in our belly, in our emotional center, this is our 7 to 14-year-old. So, you know, um, the other thing that wanted to be said was I had a conversation today about synchronicities with the Never Ending Story. So we've decided that we're going to have a film night and watch it. Um, I've actually never seen it. Can you believe it? But my friend here said it's very much about, using your imagination. And this reminded me many years ago, I did fairy parties and I would get the children to hold their glitter up to their third eye and, to visualize what it was that they were manifesting as Eye of the Magi nation. So the Magis are the sacred magicians in the masculine, known as a magus or a mage, which comes from the Persian. So the three wise men were actually magis that they refer to in the Bible. So a magi, this is the life stage of midlife, okay? The enchantress or the sacred magician who understands the power of thought, word, and deed, that's how we manifest when we're in alignment, those three things. So, Generation X, my generation, is currently in midlife. And, it was said in the Native American tradition that every 13th generation was a generation who would herald change, who would bring in change. And if we think about Generation X, it's like the generation of the crossroads, those who would be in midlife, the crossroads, the midway point of their lives for the great shift, the great rebirth. And we are the ones who remember what life was like before technology, before, the digital, you know. So in a way, there's a lot of silencing of us because the powers that be, want to create a new reality, a reset where the youth generation thinks the new normal is normal, when in fact it's a dystopian distortion. So a lot of the Gen Xers are becoming very vocal at the moment and calling people to rebel, like Rainbow Warriors, and to, find your tribe. If there was one message that you took away from what July is about, it's about the importance of being with the people that you're in co-resonance with, those who make your light shine brighter, because after all, that's how stars form. They magnetize like particles moving in a spiral, which is how we garner energy. If you think about when is a wind or water, the elements that they're most powerful, it's when they're spiraling. So too, we had the spiral dance. We used to do circle dances in every culture. Yeah, it's how we find our power, by sitting in circle, by moving in spirals together. So if it's been a long time since you've had the gift of counsel, of sitting in sacred space in circle where, you can see everybody, where nobody is higher or lower, and it calls you to be accountable to yourself when you hear yourself speak and you're witnessed by brothers and sisters and elders. This is what we're being asked to do right now, to return to tribe. So if you're somewhere in the summer and you've got access to summer festivals, go and gather with the tribe on the earth, because this is where we're in more of a being space and there's more chance of serendipity, synchronistic meetings. This is why there would be corroboree, for instance, in Australia, in the most eastern point of Byron Bay annually. because it was understood there needs to be an annual meeting of minds and souls. So, too, this was the function of festivals. It was a place for people to emerge after they had been humbled by the dark months of autumn and winter and to share what they'd learnt. For those of you in the Southern Hemisphere who are deep in the cocoon of those dark months, we we bow to your humbling. And that brings me to the second vision that I've received, and I'd like to share some insights with you. And that was I recently had a very powerful sound healing. If you find that your nervous system is exhausted, sound is the fastest way to recalibrate your energy matrix. So, Acutonics is wonderful, which is using tuning forks on the Chinese meridian points, acupressure points, but gongs, journeying into the multi-dimensional realm via gongs and Tibetan bowls. And the vision that I received, or part of the vision I received, was I was showered in white rose petals. And I'd just seen my van showered in heart-shaped white rose petals and taken a photo and joked that it looked like my van was going to be a spring bride, And in this vision, I became a white rose, and Sarasvati came in, who, in the Hindu pantheon, she represents a being that has created sacred union within. So she's often seen sitting atop a white lotus. And it represents somebody who is sovereign, someone who is self-fulfilling, self-contained. And the message was that I had been put through very intense trials, and I feel this is speaking to all of us right now because I met a brother today who said he had also been put through such intense trials of late that were intended to break his spirit by, the eclipse of dark forces that are here. We're at a time where there's a spiritual war going on, and so it's a huge challenge at the moment to stay here, to stay in a body, and to be able to keep the faith, to keep a sense of hope amidst the fear and the darkness which is being evoked by the challenges and the initiations that we're being put through. But what was said to me was all these initiations are to humble our ego. The word humble has in it hue. Hue is the tone that opens the portals of the earth. Hue is of the earth, those who align with the earth, not that which is an artificial, what would you say, replication. Dark forces can only replicate, they cannot create. So they try to harness us to create their visions for us, which is why we have dystopian programming across all of our platforms for movies and entertainment. But we need to take our power back to vision the world that we want. And when we come together, when we gather, our powers of manifestation are untapped. So particularly when we gather during portals like new moon or solstices, full moons, equinoxes, that sort of thing. So coming together and alchemizing, yeah, knowing that we are made of stardust, we're made of plasma, and together we can create the world that we want to live in rather than fearing that it's an architecture which has been set up and, we're just like lambs to the slaughter. So all of the processes, all the challenges you've been put through are to prepare you for union with all aspects of yourself as You're shown the parts that are wounded, that are in fear, in order to accept and embrace them. To be prepared for union with your beloved, because, when we heal the war of opposites, Armageddon, which is what that means, the war of opposites within us, we then are ready to meet our beloved, our divine complement. And when the beloveds come together, our powers of manifestation are, 1,000-fold. And when we then come together with our beloved, we then come together with our monad, our soul group, of 12 other souls that are part of our oversoul, that we have a sacred contract to create, a bigger vision that we can't do alone. So all of that is a herald that we're about to enter into a state of complete dissolution of the ego into unity consciousness, oneness with the all, with the one heart, the heart of the sun. So all of these trials that we're being put through, this is our preparation for us to enter into the consciousness of sacred union. So that's the message for July. If you're in the UK, I'd love for you to join me for some of the festivals. You can go to my website, themoonwoman.com, and join my list to receive my calendar of events, as well as updates on whenever I'm doing videos about the energies that are happening at the moment and how to navigate those. So blessings on your month, and connect with your tribe, and your light will shine brighter in spite of the darkness that's around us. Thanks for watching. You have my blessing to share this video. Ciao for now.